Welcome back to Reimagine 2020. I'm Yonah Hochhauser, and today I'm glad to be joined by Kevin Wang, co-founder of Nervos Network. Kevin, thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, Yonah. Good to be here.
Well, first, you want to give our audience a little bit of background, kind of who you are and how you got into blockchain?
Yeah. I was my background into engineering, and then I was trained as a software developer, and then I started with building software, more around data back in the days, and then in I think I'm trying to think with the first year I heard Bitcoin. I think it's around 20, maybe 13, 14-ish. So discovered Bitcoin and, read the white paper and then got really impressed. And before reading that white paper, I got really interested in both economics and obviously I have a engineering background. So, that's sort of that, the concept Bitcoin touch both in, economic principles as well as, software engineering to solve a problem that wasn't able to be solved before. So that was a big, it left a big impression on me. Then, I think fast forward a few years, because back then I was more sort of in the, I had a different company that I started. So for Nervos Network, it was really not until the end of 2017, beginning of 2018, then that started to do Nervos Network with some of my friends. So that's how we started.
Isn't that the goal, the dream, to kind of start working with something you love with your friends? I mean, that's awesome. So maybe tell me a little bit about the Nervos Network. What is Nervos and kind of what were your guys' goals when you started out?
Yeah, so we started, and this is already, Ethereum, the ICO craze and everything. So the landscape of the industry has changed quite a bit, right, from the Bitcoin days, and then we started to see the real potential of a sort of Turing complete computation platform. But then we also started to see issues, right? And so one of our co-founders, Jen, used to be a core developer at Ethereum, working for like sharding and sort of POS research. And so he started to see, on the front row, some of the issues, right, that you started to have. Scalability was definitely one of them, one of the big ones. So we kind of came back to the drawing board and started to think about, what are some of the fundamental sort of architectural and, the way that we can redesign the system to alleviate these issues. So there's definitely, we felt, as a, so there were, two sort of guiding principles, right? So one is, we wanted to challenge a little bit Ethereum's sort of, account model, fundamental account model where, and the EVM execution mechanism where you can only execute transactions serially, one after another, which, if you look at modern computing, right, it's a lot of it is really just parallel computing and parallel processing. So, as a blockchain, public blockchain systems, which is already, distributed, and then if you sort of add the constraint of you only be able to execute transactions serially, that becomes a bottleneck. And the other one is really, Ethereum and other, blockchain inspired by Ethereum, is mostly, just have a single layer in terms of just one platform in terms of trying to handle all the issues. So what Nervos, the fundamental architecture choice, different for Nervos is, first it uses this sort of multi-layer, layer one and layer two approach at the get-go, and then really think about, layer 2 and then layer 1 and layer 2, how they work together. And then, encourage developers to design applications sort of embracing this multi-layered approach instead of try to squeeze everything onto one layer. And also, our layer 1 uses the UTXO model, which is very different, very similar to Bitcoin, which allowed for parallel processing. Yeah, so you can increase, you can allow much better throughputs.
Well, like you mentioned, so far, at least with, with Bitcoin, Ethereum, especially with Ethereum, where they built it, when they built it, they built it with one layer in mind, to try to handle everything. And they couldn't have foreseen, I don't think they foresaw the use cases that have currently built on it, the major network congestion, especially with DeFi. And that has really congested the network, sky-high gas fees. But like you said, Nervos CKB was purposely built with two layers in mind, in one state and one computation. This is definitely, I would say a better process to go about it, to build with two at the beginning instead of tacking on a second layer to Ethereum like a lot of people are trying to do. Will that work? Do you think that any of these layer 2 solutions for Ethereum, kind of these, hey, we built Ethereum with one layer in mind, but let's try to slap on a layer 2. Will that ever scale or work as good as Nervos, where you build those 2 layers at the get-go?
I think it will work. It just in terms of developer experience, right? And then developer, if you are not, for example, there's a lot of technologies also, or research is also in the, happening in the Ethereum world. And then, so there are 2 issues that could potentially, it's already the blocking some of the, generalized layer 2 research on Ethereum. One is that, Ethereum has this EVM virtual machine on the bottom, which means the computation cost for performing certain verifications can be very high. And, we're seeing that because most of the current, promising layer 2 solutions on Ethereum is a zero knowledge based approach. And then, for certain sort of novel zero knowledge solutions, the computation cost of verification can be very high, right? And that comes down from, Ethereum's EVM fundamentally is a higher level VM, and so you're not executing on the metal, so to speak, right? And then the other thing is just, the availability of these primitives, because again, you could have precompiles, but that's sort of the solution to get around this high gas model and say, well, maybe we can have precompiles, and then that will alleviate some of the, I don't have to rewrite my verification logic in Solidity, for example, which will be very expensive, right? So that's one way to alleviate it. But again, the sort of the hard fork rate of Ethereum is never, maybe there's a hard fork every 2 years, but that will never be fast enough to catch with the sort of the blazing end of the sort of technology research. So there's several reasons, right? And then the other thing is, at least what we see that's working on Ethereum right now today, that if you want to go to sort of Ethereum layer 2 scalability, then the way you program a layer 1, layer 2 are very different, right? So, using examples, for example, Loopring, which is already working very well on Ethereum, but the way, the program model on layer 1, layer 2 are very, very different. So you have to, on layer 2, you have to mix together the sort of the infrastructure and the application logic together, right? So you are simultaneously writing a DEX and also writing sort of layer 2 scaling infrastructure, right? So that works for them. But if you want to have like a generalized environment where you can have people, program on layer 1 and then just, this is at least what we're trying to solve, right? So automatically you can also provision layer 2 infrastructure to be able to run it. using the same sort of universal programming model, and that's the way that we're trying to push it. And then yeah, so I think that will be much better, much more viable, and then much better developer user experience. And also, so going back to the EVM as layer one, right? So our layer one allows sort of, so to speak, much closer to the metal. And then, we use a virtual machine that is, that's essentially a RISC-V computer, right? So it is a computer simulator, right? So it's much closer to the actual operating system, that allows you to not only have high performance and more efficient sort of library to be executed on that, but it also allows you to directly use existing libraries, like for Snark libraries, instead of having to roll it your own, like, or wait for pre-compiled on Ethereum. So yeah, so maybe a little bit like too detailed to answer your question, but yeah, these are the angles that we try to go for it.
And you could tell that your project is being led by developers, because like you said, you're doing things that aren't for marketing purposes or at the end of the day, you guys understand the real problems because you guys are working on the blockchains. Like you said, one of your co-founders was a core ETH developer, and he saw the issues firsthand with trying to implement sharding and POS. So that is great to see, developers working for developers. Now, you guys also are implementing a unique consensus algorithm, NC Max. You want to go a little bit into how that works and why you chose that consensus algorithm?
Yeah, so NC Max is, you can think about as a sort of take the Bitcoin consensus, Nakamoto consensus, and obviously proof of work, and then try to make it the most efficient, right? And try to optimize that as much as possible. And in fact, if you look at, if you take a step back and look at all the consensus algorithms, if you give the invariant of, let's say, we're gonna, not to go for, not to saccharide decentralization, right? So let's say we're not gonna go with schemes like delegated proof of stake. Then you're essentially, the bottleneck is almost always going to be the bandwidth, because if you want to have hundreds of nodes or even thousands of nodes, right, and to be more decentralized, then by definition the data or the message has to be received by these hundreds and thousands of nodes. So in a way, the speed you can propagate data or transactions is going to be the constraining factor for your consensus algorithms, right? So with the NC Max, I think one of the most sort of critical or most important innovation here is that we try to optimize on bandwidth as much as possible. So essentially, right, so we, on the technical level, we look at, so I would say the encore rate, right, so in Ethereum is called encore rate or orphan rate, same concept, is an indicator of how fast that, a certain block has been able to propagate through the network. If it is a very low encore rate, that means there's more than enough time for a block to be propagated and everybody had received. If there's very high encore rate, that means the block hasn't been able to sufficiently propagate it, and then that probably indicates a low or not enough bandwidth. So what we're doing is we essentially adjust block time based on the encore rate. So we target a specific encore rate, and then if the encore rate is low, then we know that we're not fully utilizing the bandwidth. Therefore, we're increasing. We're decreasing the block time, right? We increase the rate that we're producing blocks, so we can produce more blocks per minute, so to speak, right? So that's and then we calibrate based on that. and then so that's one of the, and the other one that's really important is that we're making sort of selfish mining theoretical and profitable. And then that's another one of the highest main risks for for Bitcoin mining is to that self mining could be profitable after difficulty adjustments. So we added the algorithms to make that unprofitable. So it's never miners don't have incentive to salvage mine. So those are the main changes.
Well, yeah, and it seems like with you guys prioritizing bandwidth and does this set the Nervos network up to be perfect for DeFi? Is the goal to allow dApps and DeFi to build upon it? Is it more as a peer-to-peer transfer of value, transactions? How do you guys envision the use of the Nervos network?
Yeah, I think DeFi is definitely going to be one of the most important sectors. And then some of the stuff that we talk about, that we build, I think are uniquely position us to be a good platform for DeFi. So one thing that I haven't mentioned is the economic model is also sort of built with the vision to have our layer one sort of the more store value based blockchain. And then which is important because DeFi is all about value, it's all about assets. So we look at some other blockchains, and then there is a sort of also a pattern which is typically the native token or native coin is strictly used as or positioned to be used as money, right, instead of having intrinsic value. And I think that may work for some of the platform like Ethereum, and then but then it will definitely be very challenging for most other platforms. And then fundamentally the issue you're hitting is what we call this heavy assets problem, right? So as a sort of DeFi platform or value platform, so as the value of assets increase on the platform, there is no direct sort of correlation to the native value, right? There's no direct like value capture mechanism so that the native token, native coin can also be more valuable. And if you don't hold this invariance, again, the level of network security is determined, or the attacking cost is determined by how much money attackers need to spend to be able to attack, like do a double spending, right? And then if you don't, if you can't make it such that the more valuable the assets are on the platform, the more difficult it is to attack, then sooner or later the platform will be attacked. So that's something that we haven't seen in any other platforms. And then when we did our economic model, we made sure that the native token has direct value capture for the assets that's stored on our layer one platform. So it will be, it will be not so much of a problem.
When we look at Ethereum, sorry about that. When we look at Ethereum, which the assets stored on the network are growing and growing, especially with the growth of DeFi, and they don't have their inherent token tied to the value of the assets. How come we don't see that same issue there about attacks on the Ethereum network?
I mean, we haven't. I mean, the DeFi, really started to take off, I would say maybe this year, right? And again, this is in my view, it's a long process of adoption in terms of DeFi. I mean, we're only seeing the very beginning of it, right? So I'm not saying it will for sure 100% happen. I'm just saying theoretically that's possible to happen. And then especially the gap between the value that Ethereum secures versus Ethereum's own market cap, right?
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, Ethereum is so think of it this way, right? Essentially, Ethereum is using its own market cap to defend the all the tokens, right? You should say DeFi
Mm-hmm.
tokens running on Ethereum. It's using its own market cap to defend it, right? So the DeFi tokens themselves are not helping to defend it. It's purely just the ETH is being paid for the miners to secure the platform. And then so if and there's no direct value transfer, direct value. They don't essentially, if you think about like the real world, right? So all the DeFi projects don't pay tax to the ETH miners. And then I mean, just like in real countries or real worlds, I mean that can be a problem.
And how do you guys implement that into I'm assuming when you're discussing your native token, you're talking about CK Byte, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So how do you implement it? What is the mechanism that kind of connects the CK Byte's value to the assets on the network?
Yeah. So again, let's extend the analogy, right? So you think about if you were to be able to design a system that you want to extract some sort of value from ecosystem projects or utility, right? Utilization of your platform. How would you go around doing it? So first, if you design from the top down, first you need to make sure that this needs to be collected not one time. It has to be collected somewhat ongoingly, right? And then it has to be because you're protecting the value being stored on Ethereum. Is not just when they are created or a specific transaction. So it has to be some sort of ongoing tax, if you will, ongoing cost that your ecosystem can contribute to the security. And if on the blockchain system, really the only again, if you think about system requirements, the platform performs either computation, storage, or bandwidth, and these are the resources the miners can provide. So the only property that's consistent to the need of these costs is state storage, because state storage needs to be miners always have to have the entire state to be able to perform consensus, and then the occupation pattern is always that the longer you keep these states, then the more system resource you have to consume. So we're making the connection between basically state storage occupation versus how like the payment pattern, right? So essentially, we designed the economic model that we sort of mandate people to use state to pay for the ongoing security, right? So so that's that's we get into that topic. I mean, that's a topic that has been under research for quite a long time on Ethereum, and I don't think it's a perfect solution there. Again, because sort of the intrinsic value of ETH, the native token, and then the way we solve it is because we use a unit of state storage as the native token, so that allows us to do so much, so many more things. And then basically your monetary policy can be your state occupation unit is then tradable, has a market price, and then you can use monetary policy to extract value from that as well.
Mm-hmm. And how does this tie in to you guys? You're the Nervos Network does not use ERC20 tokens like Ethereum, but you have your own UDTs or user-defined tokens. How do those differ from the way that ERC20 tokens work on Ethereum?
So we have our own UDTs, and then again, this is the difference between our UDTs and ERC20 is fundamentally comes from the data structure, the underlying sort of ledger structure and the data structure that we use. So we use something like cell model, which is similar to Bitcoin's UTXO model. And in this model, so you have something like, I mean, I think for like the OG people, back to the Bitcoin days,
Yeah.
this is essentially the um, sort of the premise of a colored coin, right? So you have a piece of UTXO that you can represent not just a Bitcoin balance, but you can represent any custom assets, any custom, you can define your own semantics to it, right? So this is similar to that, in that you have what we call a cell. Again, a cell, you can define how big it is, how many bytes, and this links to the native token, right? But with this, let's say you have a cell of 1,000 bytes, and then with this, 1,000 bytes, you can define your own semantics, what it means, and then what's the constraint when you transfer this cell to other people, and with the cell using transactions, and that comes to the smart contract part of it, right? So that's the idea. So our user defined token standard is you basically specify the data structure for the cell, right? So for the first 8 bits, or I have to look at the spec specifically, but either 8 bits or 16 bits that represent this, and then the next, let's say 16 bits represents this information, so that when you're using transactions, and then there's also a sort of we call a standard called SUDT, called simple UDT, which has a script, and again, this is a little bit different from Ethereum, right? So if you issue a token on Nervos, you'll be able to just use the script directly if you're issuing something like an ERC20 token or fungible token, right? Mm-hmm. So with Ethereum, you will still have to write code or copy paste some code from somewhere. But with this, if you're just issuing a token, then you can just use our script, and it's available online, on chain as well. So that's the main difference.
I like it. I mean, it seems like you guys kind of looked at Bitcoin and looked at Ethereum and all the other solutions that people work on. You kind of took the best of both worlds there, which I think is a brilliant idea. Why pick sides? Take the best from both sides. So kudos for you guys there. It sounds really exciting. Now, you guys also recently added a band protocol to bring Oracle tech to Nervos. What are you guys planning on doing with that? What does that enable the Nervos network to accomplish?
Yeah. So again, I think we're believers in DeFi, and I think it's multi-decades or multi-year. I mean, however you say it, I mean, it's a big sort of historical trend that will happen, just like the way the internet started, and decentralized finance is, by the way, it's much more than what we're seeing right now, like liquidity mining, and speculation and coins and things like that. But so coming back to sort of Oracle, right? Fundamentally, if you want to build a viable DeFi ecosystem, Oracle is a very important piece of the puzzle. It's one of the building blocks. So essentially you need to have things like stablecoin, you have oracles, and then you need to have decentralized exchanges, the DEX. AMM is definitely gaining a lot of traction on the DEX space, and I think those are the main primitives. For us, we also want to build a bridge to Ethereum and to other public blockchains as well, so that assets can move more freely between different ecosystems. I think that's sort of the if you talk about like a minimal viable DeFi ecosystem, right? That's basically it.
And with so much, with the your network being able to handle so much bandwidth, as well as maintaining that top level security, do you think that, or are you anticipating any enterprise interest into the Nervos network?
I mean, we're already seeing interest, right? Just typically projects in the enterprise space moves a lot slower than what we see, like several entrepreneurs in the garage and just go for it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's definitely interest in enterprise, but whenever you have enterprise solution, there's also element of regulation attached to
Mhm.
it, and then enterprise tend to be more tipping their toes into the space instead of just jumping in, and this is sort of the hybrid sort of permissioned and permissionless approach will be the most helpful. And for us, with the layered approach, we can also architect such a system much more easily that, on layer two, and enterprise typically do, want to have something of higher throughput because they tend to have like a larger user case, user base. And then, so we can have sort of the regulatory compliant layer on layer two, and then again, if they need to expand out of that, if you want to do cross-border stuff and then go across jurisdictions, then public blockchain is typically the platform they use to do that.
Mhm. And so going back in your last answer, you mentioned DeFi and how there's so much more to it than just the liquidity mining and what in the yield farming that we're seeing today. When I first heard of DeFi, this is, I was going to blockchain conferences, 2-3 years ago. And back then DeFi wasn't center stage like it is today. DeFi was given the back room. There'd be 3-4 guys, at that workshop. And when I heard of it, I thought, wow, decentralized finance, it's kind of like, I don't have to go to a bank. If I want a loan for my house, I don't have to go to a bank. I could kind of go to the community, go to a larger group of people and try to get financial services. And that's not really how people have been using DeFi today, in terms of the major use cases like yield farming and liquidity mining. How do you view that right now? How do you view yield farming and the way that DeFi is being used today? Is this just the necessary speculation and capital needed to drive the innovation towards something else, or is this just people taking advantage of an inefficient market to make money before everyone figures it out?
Yeah, I think it's necessary. I mean, think about how Bitcoin came around, right? I mean, the reason that Bitcoin is where it is today is it went through, I don't know how many how many iterations of speculative bubbles and crash and things like that to be able to expand. So in a way, I think it probably has to go through this way because this is how like capital formation happens. This is how you get, you expand the DeFi users and developers beyond, just a very small group of developers and, hippies, so to speak, right? And because the market cap of the space is very small, it's still relatively small. So whenever you have this expansion of possibilities, use cases and whatnot, then it's like a micro cap like stock, right? Whenever people start to, this is it's gonna happen, then your capital rush in and just the price just gets skyrocketed to the sky, and then something it hits some hurdle, and then people say, oh yeah, this is not good, and then it crashes again, just because the nature of such a small market in comparison to capital that's looking for yield, or capital, even just speculative capital looking for to moon, right? So I think I'm not sure there can be another way, because until again you have a much more robust ecosystem, you have like a much big players and much market cap that can absorb these sort of shocks along the journey that DeFi in general can develop. Again, like I said, this is the same journey that Bitcoin had, right? So in the beginning, like a very obscure, nobody knows about it, and then, or very few people didn't take it seriously. But then, started to, when there is a, positive price action, and then people start to recognize the potential, and then narratives and so on, attracted just, 10x more people and capital, then inevitably, the price action also goes up and sort of reinforcing and attracting more people. And and obviously it crashes and at some point. And build its support and things like that. So it will be the same thing for DeFi. I think compared to traditional startups like Silicon Valley startups, the core differences here is that this is probably the first time that entrepreneurs can build products, and even before it's fully developed or fully product market fit, or reach like a mass adoption phase, that the value is also simultaneously traded on the public market. And I would say if you were to introduce this element to like Silicon Valley startups, you have the same problem, right? You just Uber, it will be a very different journey that they the way they want to public, essentially being the dominant player of the industry. So I think we're still very beginning of DeFi, and then there's very great potential that can come. But it's also just uniquely enabled by blockchain technology because people can trade.
Well, yeah, I think you're exactly right. It is a very interesting way of looking at it. Kind of like, if right now you could go to any startups could get access to the public market, it would look crazy. I mean, there'd be crazy speculation all over the place. I think that the main difference here, and this is a big difference that we also saw with the ICO boom, is a lack of equity. In the traditional markets, if you're going to speculate, you're going to speculate on equity on that project. You're going to want, great, I might own 5% of the next Facebook, but especially with the ICOs where you're just getting utility tokens, which didn't give you any equity. And here now, maybe with DeFi, you could argue with the governance token, maybe that might equate to equity, but not really. Here, you're still speculating on price. You're not speculating on actually getting a piece of the pie. But once all this speculation does its part and brings enough capital and brings in the research, the amazing research you guys are using, what's your view of DeFi? What does a mature DeFi look like? What kind of products and services could not just me and you and other people who are early to the game, but what could the everyday person who wants really decentralized finance, what could he expect?
Yeah, I think you're asking for famous last words, right? Yeah, I mean, this is like you ask like in the early 1900s and say, hey, what do you think this automobile? I mean, people say, oh, what a better carriage. So yeah, I'm probably gonna say something like boring like that, but I don't think what I can think of. It's probably something I can't imagine, right?
Wow.
Or we talk about when people see emails, hey, what does the internet can come about? And nobody will tell you like Amazon or Facebook. But there's maybe better emails. So the computer can read it to me, or so I don't have to write, or something like that, right? But yeah, I mean, I think if you ask most practitioners in the space, and they will tell you like more around traditional finance products, and I say, well, what is that we have in traditional finance? Obviously, payments. We have lending, insurance, trading, exchange, right? And then derivatives, right? And that's pretty much it. The things that I miss, I mean, those are the big buckets, right? Yeah. And then they'll say, well, I mean, we're gonna have similar. I mean, they will point to different DeFi projects and say, look, these guys are doing derivatives, these guys are doing lending, these guys are doing insurance, these guys are doing X. Which I think that's probably we're gonna start. We're gonna build a better carriage first before we make flying cars. But I mean, really in the future, I mean, I hope it's not something I can imagine today, right? Because otherwise, it's going to be less exciting.
Very cool. I mean, you got me really excited, for this, because even I was thinking still with too much inside the box, when in reality, with this new technology, we should be thinking outside the box. Is that how Nervos is thinking? Is Nervos are you guys thinking about like, let's build infrastructure that people could build upon to build crazy tools that we can't even imagine? Or are you guys also actively involved in trying to build those unique tools?
I think both. Obviously, we need to build, very the tools that work for Nervos Network, and then because we know the technology the best. So we're taking a pretty active role in building up tooling. We're building up some, primitives. On the same side, on the application layer, we definitely want to be able to rely on entrepreneurs to contribute and build products. We're also, we are building sort of demos of things that we can see that can be useful. But then again, we're looking for people that can operate them, can productize them. So we may not be the best, and honestly speaking, have the bandwidth to be able to, run like 5 different projects or 5 different products at the same time building a platform. But yeah, but we can sort of bootstrap that process to so people can just take and productize them.
Yeah. Well, listen, I love the work you guys are doing, and you've got to be excited for the future. Kevin, thank you so much for taking the time. I really can't wait to see what comes out next from you guys at the Nervos and the network, and appreciate you taking the time and looking forward to see what the future holds. So thank you, and for all our viewers at Reimagine 2020, I'm Yonah Hochhauser. Thanks for watching.